Well, tonight, Brazil's president is headed for an impeachment trial. The Senate late last night gave the go-ahead. Now, Dilma Rousseff is now out of a job for 6 months, and it is highly unlikely that she will ever return to office. How did it come to this? Well, in 2011, Rousseff took office from Lula da Silva, her mentor from the Workers' Party, who handpicked Rousseff to succeed him. Now, after being reelected in 2014, Rousseff was accused of manipulating the budget deficit during her campaign, basically so she could win. She said that it's a practice that is commonplace in Brazil. Well, amidst allegations of rampant corruption within her Workers' Party, police raided the home of da Silva in March of this year for his alleged involvement in the state oil corruption scandal. Weeks later, millions took to the streets in anti-government protests, citing the economic and the political crises. They called for the removal of President Rousseff and Mr. da Silva. Well, last month, Brazil's lower house voted overwhelmingly in favor of starting impeachment proceedings against Rousseff. The case was then moved to the Senate, which last night, as we all now know, voted to put the president on trial for manipulating the budget deficit. If 2/3 find her guilty, she will be permanently removed from office.
Dilma, fighter for the Brazilian nation, they cry. Rousseff's supporters, including members of her former cabinet, gathered to show their confidence in the now suspended president. In spite of the Senate's decision, no one here is planning on giving up the fight, least of all Rousseff herself. What is at stake in the impeachment process isn't just my mandate. What is in play is respect for the ballot box, the sovereign will of the Brazilian people and the Constitution. Forced from office but with her head held high, Rousseff greets supporters waiting for her outside the presidential palace. These people see Rousseff's suspension as a coup motivated by politics. It was after a marathon all-night debate in the Senate that 55 of 77 senators voted to suspend Rousseff. They want to put her on trial for allegedly illegally manipulating finances to hide a growing public deficit. In order to improve this nation, she must be removed. Confidence in the markets and business will return with her dismissal. Rousseff's opponents blame her for high unemployment and a collapsing economy. They see her removal as an opportunity for change. I used to like Dilma a lot, but at this moment I think Brazil should be congratulated, and I am sure things will get much better. The Senate now has 180 days to conduct a trial and decide whether Rousseff should be permanently removed from office. In the meantime, her vice president turned enemy, Michel Temer, has taken her place. Temer has now put together an all-male, business-friendly cabinet, naming a former central bank chief as finance minister and a former governor of Sao Paulo foreign minister.
All right, let's pull in Alex Quadros. He is a journalist and an author based in Sao Paulo in Brazil. Good afternoon to you, Alex. There you are. You know, Rousseff has described this ousting as a coup. Is it?
Well, look, I am not a legal expert, but I think that when she uses the term coup, it's important to understand that Brazil has had real military coups in its past in the 20th century. And the last time it happened in 1964, Dilma became a member of an urban guerrilla group and fought against that dictatorship that was installed afterward and was tortured under it. And that's a history that's still very present for her. But I think that rhetorically, whatever the questions that there are over the technical grounds for her impeachment, rhetorically, when you speak about what's happening as a coup, I think it oversimplifies the stakes. It puts things into very black and white terms, when in fact, democracy is a system with a lot of gray areas, and politics is often dirty.
That is all true, but it doesn't change the fact that 60% of Brazilians say they want this impeachment to take place. One reason, they say, is the $5.3 billion corruption scandal involving the state-run oil giant Petrobras. Now, it is the largest corruption scandal. We've done our research here. The largest corruption scandal in the history of modern democracy. Certainly, the president has to be made to answer for that.
Well, look, there's no question that Dilma's party, the Workers' Party, has overseen and benefited from an absolutely massive corruption scandal. Now, the irony, of course, is that the people in Congress who are voting in favor of her impeachment, many of them themselves are accused in the very same scandal or in other scandals. And I think that the reason that impeachment is viable today in Brazil is not so much because of the scale of the corruption that's been uncovered. That is a factor. But really what I think this is about is the economy. And Dilma's management of the economy was ruinous. Brazil is in its worst recession in decades. So there's massive public support for her removal.
You talk about the economy, and that brings us then to the man who's going to take her place, at least for the next 6 months, and that is her vice president, Michel Temer. You tweeted today, to many investors, he seems to be riding in on a white steed, a seasoned insider who will turn around the economy of epic failure and enormous potential. I mean, it sounds like he's going from Judas to Jesus.
Right. Well, that line was from a Bloomberg story, and I think accurately captured the hopes of many investors. I think that Temer himself, I don't know that he has any ideology of his own about economics, but I think that he understood that politically, in order to rally support from business and from sectors on the right, it was advantageous to design a program, an economic program, that would appeal to investors. And he's expected to implement austerity. I think there's no question that Brazil needs some kind of austerity. It spent more than it brought in for a few years now. The question is, who is going to have to give something up? And according to his plans, a lot of the people at the bottom of the pyramid are going to have to give up a piece of the pie.
Yeah. Alice, we've got about 30 seconds left. Let me just ask you, what's your prediction? We know the numbers, it could go either way. Do you think the Senate will come up with that 2/3 majority and, in fact, remove Rousseff from office?
I think she has almost no chance of surviving this impeachment process. Things are way too far along by now.
All right. Alex Quadros there from Sao Paulo. Alex, as always, thank you very much. We appreciate your insights.
Thank you.
And of course, the turmoil in Brazil has sparked discussion on social media. Some Brazilians are taking the news with humor. And this social media user referenced a Miley Cyrus song by posting a photo of Temer, that's the vice president, on a wrecking ball saying, "I came in like a Temer ball." Now, other Brazilian social media users are not so amused. One tweeted, "People who died this Thursday morning, Dilma, democracy, me." Now, Margarita Salomão, a member of Brazil's federal parliament and Rousseff's party, called for a protest and tweeted, "History will not forgive the supporters of the coup. Now let's go in front of the presidential palace." And a Brazilian journalist tweeted this in English, "Dilma is out all but definitely. Temer is in. Brazil has a new old president and old new problem."